Thank you very much. Oh, it's fading out. Okay. So, as Mark said, my name's Brian. I think I've met most people here before, but if I haven't, co-founder of Joomla, and for the last sort of 2-3 years, I've been working mainly with accessibility things. So, to begin, I really don't speak any French. Yeah, I'm not going to. English schools don't teach you great French. You'll see there's some live subtitles on. They're not brilliant, but if you need them, they're better than nothing. And in fact, I watched the last presentation the other way around. So I watched the English translation of that. So it's better than nothing. Obviously, it would be great if there was real live subtitles, but we don't have that. But everybody in France, I understand, knows where is. Yeah, Brian is in the kitchen. For years, people would say, "Where is Brian?" No one told me why they were saying, "Where is Brian?"
It's not in Belgium. It's only in France.
Is it only in France?
It's
Okay.
on textbooks.
Right. So, what is that? Accessibility is about removing barriers so that everybody can use your website. So in German, the word is barrier-frei, barrier-free, and it's a different mindset. So we're not talking about what can I add to my website to make it work for people who can't use a mouse. We're talking about starting the other way around and starting with, right, oh, you can use a mouse as well? That's great. So it's changing the way that we focus, and it works the other way around. So the World Health Organization have said, almost everybody here, at some point in your life, will have a disability. So today, Gel is using crutches because he's hurt his leg. So that's a disability that's affecting him, and it's a short-term disability. So everybody, and don't fall into the trap of thinking, my website's about motorcycles. People who are blind won't come to my website. It's just not true. Yeah, so websites should be available to everybody. And those accessibility, the things that we talk about that you'll hear later on in the presentation, and the things that were said in the last presentation as accessibility features, yes, for some people, it's absolutely necessary that we have that. But everybody benefits from them because they're all about doing correct and good work. So I'm going to start. I've got 7 sections to this. The first one we're going to talk about is image descriptions, or alternative text, or alternative description. I think it is in French. So one of the, Dimitris gave me a good example of this one, and I couldn't find it again, was this picture should be, the description of the picture will change depending on the contents that it's with. Yeah? So yes, it is a person with a rucksack. What's more important for the image is the mountains behind. You know, someone going on an adventure. So why were you using the image? You know, we make mental decisions about why we use an image, and it's different. So you can't have the same alt text but the image every time you use it, because it may be different. Which is why, although there is now artificial intelligence for detecting and adding descriptions for images, it's not very good. So I don't know what it's like in French, but in English, it is very literal description. So it's not describing it in the context. So if I was to show you, this is a sample article. And we have this, I was looking for a photograph to showcase the article, and I found these 6 photographs, and the text that is there is the text that I think it was PowerPoint, so Microsoft's engine, created as or suggested as the alternative text. So apart from the fact that there are a few that are obviously a mistake, this one here, they're not looking at a book, and he's not on a cell phone, or it's a very cell phone. So there are mistakes, and you'll say, this is the one that I'm using. So it's identified it as a person sitting at a table with a computer. Well, that's correct description of the image, but if you look at it, how I was using, in the context, what I'm writing is a man working at a coffee shop table on their computer. Because those are in the context of the article about people traveling the world and working, that's the correct description. So it's not enough just to have a description, it has to be a correct one. So Joomla actually helps you to do part of it. So in Joomla 4, every time you will see or get the opportunity to add an image, and there's 3 different ways that I've shown here, you always have the opportunity to add the alternative text. But also, you also have an option to say no description, or sometimes it's written as, oh yeah, decorative. What does that mean? It means this image doesn't add anything to this article. It's a picture of a flower just because the designer wanted a picture on the website. So what's better for it to be, if I'm listening to the web page being read out, which is better for me to hear there is a flower on this page, or to not hear anything? Well, the best in that case is not to hear anything. So in order to do that, you have to mark it as being decorative, and just ticking that box will do that. So as of Joomla 4.1, we now include this tool, which we've really badly called Duali. It's a common thing for accessibility to say A11. Why? So A11. Why? Because there are 11 letters between the A and the Y. It's a really bad joke. But it has lots of different checks. So it's identified, for example, this one is missing text. It's told you it's missing it. This one, it's saying, oh, it's marked as decorative. Are you sure it should be marked as decorative? This one even is a warning that you've written a bit too much. So it's more than Yannick was talking in the last one, the automated checks and AXA and things. So this is much more about best practices than it is about doing the right thing according to the rules. So yes, it obeys the rules, but the wording it's using is much more friendly, and it's much more informative and includes things that are not in the rules, such as, you might want to check that it's not too long. So this one is my favorite rule. And it's checking to what a lot of people do. They write their description for this is photo of a bird sat on a tree. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is they use the word photo or image or picture, because when a screen reader gets to this, screen reader is already telling the person it's an image. So they hear image of. Yeah, that's a bit sucky. So this thing has even will notify you if you use certain, what we call stop words, just as a warning. Sometimes it's relevant, You know, it might be relevant to say it's a photograph of a bird if all the other images are sketches, pencil drawings of a bird. But most of the time, it's just because you didn't know what you were doing. So this tool is really good for this. But it still can't fix stupid. Yeah? Joomla's good, but it's not that good. So I wanted to find an example of this. People put text on images. I'm not talking about an overlay where it is real text. I'm talking about where they send you a poster for their event as a JPEG and expect you to put it on your website as is. You can't read that because the screen reader is just different colored pixels. It's not text. So I was looking for an example, and I just happened to be on the Amazon website at the time. And as you see, this is Amazon's Barack Obama book. And we can see here some great quotes from the publisher. Guess what? They're images. Even better, what is the alt text for them? It's the same alt text for each one, saying that it's the book. That's it. So you get, so someone, a screen reader will hear the same thing 3 times, and it doesn't help you at all because I actually wanted to know what those texts said. Great quote. And it might have an impact on my buying decision. But if I can't see, I never know. So even someone like Amazon can make these mistakes. All right, so moving on. Headings. We talk about semantic headings and heading structures. Because you would never create a piece of content that looks like that, because it's hard to read. We create it like this. So there is a visual hierarchy. Yeah, I can visually see that, the big bit at the top, that's the big text, probably the main headline, and then the subheadlines, etc. So you can visually see. But what about if you can't visually see? You're relying on a screen reader or something like that. You're relying on technology to tell me what's the hierarchy of the page. So, good example. These 2 articles, what's the difference? Okay, visually, they are absolutely identical. Absolutely identical, but if I was to use a screen reader or to navigate with a key, or use a hotkey that might display the headings of that are on a page, what I'll get is on this article, that's it, I've just highlighted it, the one, that's the, and on this one, we've got headings, this is a subheading, etc. Because we're using proper markup, and that's why it's important. So it's not just about someone deciding that you should write your HTML like that. It really has a real world use. And of course, in the first example, it wasn't a heading, it was just a paragraph and they'd set font size. So they'd visually made it more important, but they hadn't semantically made it more important, so not more important to the screen reader. And of course, it's less code to write H3 than it is to write all that horrible inline CSS. There's a couple of other examples of why it's really useful. And I'll talk a bit more about them later on, but just very quickly, we can see here an outline of the article. Yeah, heading, course information, course details, then we've got instructor information and instructor details. Whereas, of course, on this one, we don't have any of that. And that, if I come to the article, I can line using either this tool or many other tools or assistive technology can say, what are the outlines? What's the outline of this article? and then I can decide where to jump in or where to leave, if necessary. But again, we can't fix stupid. So this was another example of not being able to fix stupid. This is Google. Google search for Donald Trump. And doing this search, and I got to the end, near the end, and I went, that's not Donald Trump. So I'm thinking, why is this picture of President Biden coming up when I search for Donald Trump? It's obviously not what I want to see. So I followed the link and it took me to this website, which is the Times of India. And we can see it's appeared because they obviously had some tagging system that put it into the Donald Trump tag. But even so, why did that picture come up as Donald Trump? Well, let's have a look at the alt descriptions on these images. Yeah, there aren't any on any of the images. Okay, so now what's Google doing when it's indexing this page? Well, it's looking at the head. And we have an H1, which is Donald Trump, an H2 that is Donald Trump, and no, we don't have an H3, we just have a div. Yeah, so Google quite rightly has identified that image as being Donald Trump. When, of course, it's not, because the website is not identifying the photo correctly. So you're losing out on a Google search if you're not doing it correct. And you may not know this the website, but it is one of the top, depends on which site, but in the top 100 websites in the world by traffic. So it's not a small website or some obscure one that I've found just to prove my point. It's one of the biggest. So anybody can make these mistakes. Right, moving on, color contrast. It was talked about in the last one, but let me just, I'm interested to see if this works on the projector. Hopefully it does. Which man has the darker trousers? The one on the left or the one on the right? On the left. Yeah, let's have a look. Okay, Demetrius is too clever. Oh, wrong button. It's exactly the same. And why am I showing you that? Because to show you that, that it's not just the image that you have, or the color of the text that you have, it's the color of the thing and the color underneath it. Yeah, because our minds make those adjustments. So this was another example, color contrasts, how it can affect what you can see on a page. And that's not just about, so on my laptop right now, I can see this beautifully, even the one in the top left, because it's a very clear screen. But even on this projector, it's already much harder to see. If we opened, oh, we don't have any, if the sun was shining in this room, apart from it being a lot hotter, we probably wouldn't be able to read that one in the top left at all. Yeah, so it's not just about people who are colorblind, who can't see the difference between one color and another. It's about the people who have dirty screens. It's about the people who are on their mobile phone outside when it's very bright or very dark. It affects everything. But you should also not just rely on color. Yeah? You should always have two, at least, indicators. Why? Okay, so this is a really simple and boring chart, but we can all see 3 lines, and the 3 lines are in 3 different colors. And of course, when I can't see the colors, yeah, it's 3 shades of gray. And shades of gray might be popular for some things, but it's not great for website images. And now, can you tell me which is Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3? Yeah, it's very difficult. So you should always have 2, which is why this is immediately better. Yeah? So I'm using different line formatting on this one. So I'm still using the colors, but I'm using dashes and dots and solid lines, because even when I go to the grayscale, it's still just as easy to understand. And again, Joomla will help you along with this because it has its own, in the Duality tester, it will identify all the screen contrast ratios. It doesn't do text on an image yet, but it will. But you can see, you may not be able to see, it's identified that this was a yellow text on a white background. So it's flagging that up. Links. Links must be unique. You can't have two links with the same name because it's going to confuse someone. Because what you may be doing is just going and go to that web page and you're pressing a button or saying a command to say, tell me all the links on this page. So they must be unique. You also don't want them to say, click here to read more. You know, they should be telling you where you're going to go, what's going to happen when you click on this link. So back to that magazine article, it's a typical Joomla blog view, and all the links are displayed as read more. That's what happens sometimes. If you're on a different web, if you're not using Joomla, that's a problem. If you're using Joomla, you have another option. You can tell it to display the title as well. So it will now say, read more, digital nomad. So it's much more, it's telling the user what's going to happen when they click on that link. But of course, in Joomla, we can also have it just displaying the words read more, and it's not a problem that they'll look the same, because automatically they're getting the code, the ARIA code underneath with the full description, which means that someone's using assistive technology won't hear read more, read more, read more. They will hear read more, digital nomad, read more, working remotely. Still a good idea to avoid them just being even visually read more, read more, read more, because that's an accessibility benefit for those people that can't see. You've not solved the problem for those that can see. You're still showing them four identical links. So it can be an issue, but not always. So again, Joomla's helping you do the right thing, and it's part of the same tester. So it's going to flag up all different things. So this one, it's flagged up a link called Learn More, and it says the link text may not be descriptive enough when you see it outside of the article. So when you just see it in a list of links, does it mean everything? Is it clear and unique? And it pick up, so this one is quite happy with, learn more about Joomla. It's clear what's going to happen when I click on that link. And it goes through and it finds there's all sorts of different rules. Some of them are errors, but others are just best practice warnings. So what have we learned about those colors, contrasts for a link? So this is bad if read more is the clickable link. That's much better if Joomla accessibility is the clickable link, but we're relying on color and color alone to tell us that, so that's bad. So if we combine the two and we have color and another visual indicator, such as an underline, the web wasn't, the underline's been good enough for the web for 20 years. There's nothing wrong with it. If your designer doesn't like it, let him customize it, as I've done here, and use a dotted line or something, but keep the visual indicator that it is a link. What is on the footer of your website? Every website that you build. So I know a privacy notice, terms of use, a cookie policy. Don't sell my personal info, which is GDPR. Copyright, impressum, which is a German contact type thing, or just contact details. You're going to have all of these, or most of these, on your websites. Who puts an access on their websites? Anybody? No. So, all right, sometimes. So, some countries actually legally require you to do that, to have a statement about that. For Belgium, I didn't check France, sorry, but for Belgium, the law says that if the website is for a government website, then it must have an accessibility statement. In Britain, United Kingdom, it's slightly more than that. It's any website that might have got some fund that's associated with some government money in some way. So every school website would tick that box, so they must have an accessibility statement. It's actually perfectly all right for an accessibility statement to say, we have not put subtitles on our videos. But at least you've told me that, and you're aware of it. And hopefully in the future, you will change. So that's a link to an automatic generator. It asks you some questions, and that's on the W3C website. But there is one in French and Dutch and German on this website, which is the Belgian Web Access, which I found because I was looking for the last speaker's website. So this is the official Belgium government website for you to go to and generate your accessibility statement. Which was a great introduction to this next topic. It's something that, as an English person, I just expect you all to understand me in English. And I don't speak any other languages, and it's not that common for a website in England to have more than one language on. In Belgium, do you have to have two? Is it two or three?
We have three: French, Dutch, German.
Okay, so it's three. In France, they probably just do one. Yeah? In Germany, maybe just German, but you might have the variants of German, German Swiss, German, etc. So it all depends, but it's really important that technology can tell what language the page is. Now, Joomla does this automatically. So this is joomla.org/4. And it does it automatically when you have a language. It puts the very first tag. It's saying what language we're on at any one time. In the French language, the very first thing it will say is HTML lang equals FR-FR. If you're switching to the German language, it does it automatically and will display DE. So Joomla does all this automatically for you, but not every system does. Again, back to this website. This website is built with another open source CMS, whose founder is from Belgium. Okay, so if you don't know what that meant, it means it's built with Drupal. And this isn't a criticism probably of either the website builder or of Drupal. It's just that no one noticed. Why? So I go to this form, which is the link I just showed you, and I start navigating around, and you'll see at the top I'm in the French language option. And let's just listen to what this first description says.
Les champs obligatoires sont marqués par un asterisk.
Okay, that's not French. That's me reading French.
It's Belgian French.
And the reason is because the web page is actually marked up as being in French, but this form is actually inside an iframe, and the form is marked up as being English. Yeah, the form never changed, even though it's clearly French text. They've just done 3 forms, one in French, one in German, one in Dutch, but the page says it's English. So that causes all sorts of issues. And they're obviously aware of it because lang equals FR at the very top of the first one, so that's set correctly. Then when they put the iframe in, they're obviously trying to do it because they're setting lang equals FR twice. It doesn't do anything on that element, but you can set it. And the only one that actually does matter is that one, which is still EN. So one of the things that I noticed as a problem for this wasn't just for me listening to the website. I don't speak French, so I always have Google Translate automatically translate the website as I'm reading it. And it didn't translate that because Google thought it was English. And I want to see it in English, so it just left it as it is. So there's lots of different assistive technologies that have problems if you don't set the language correctly. So yes, even experts can make mistakes when they're doing stuff. So on the Afouge, so not the Afouge website, yes. I can't remember if this is the JoomlaDay website or the website for Afouge. What do you do when you have more than one language on the same page? So you can see here, all right, it's only in the footer, but we've got a statement there in French and a statement in English. How does that work? So this is a better example. This is one of my demo sites, which is live. You can go to it, do more with core.com. If we go to the French article and we listen to it with the web pages or websites language, which is English.
Link, heading level 2 French. Server pont d'Iovin L on Y dance, L on Y dance. Server pont d'Iovin L on Y dance to see Rond.
Yep, not great.
Heading level 2 French.
Oh, sorry.
Sur le pont d'Avignon. L'on y danse sur le pont d'Avignon. L'on y danse tous en rond.
So that's what happens when I mark up that it's in French. So how do you do this one bit of the page in French, or one bit in German or Dutch or whatever? Well, again, Joomla's helping you to do the right thing. We're the only CMS that does this. If you want the full tutorial about how to do it, go to do more. There's just a couple of manual instructions, but basically you end up with a new icon on your TinyMC toolbar that's a globe with the languages that you have put there. So you have to, it doesn't have every language in the world. It's the languages that you've installed and then you have chosen to put here. And so what you do is you highlight your text, click the button, and it's now put behind it the HTML lang code. Exactly for your sentence, for your phrase, for your paragraph, whatever. So you can actually have separate articles or separate parts of an article in different languages. I think this is the last one. So skipping to content. So what do I mean? Well, everywhere, almost every web page, if I say every, then there's always going to be an exception. Almost every web page will have content that's repeated on every page. And annoyingly, it's usually the very first piece of content, the menu. So what happens is you would go to this Washington Post article, front page, and then you'd click on that. And what do you do? Well, you're back at the beginning again. Now, if you can see, that's fine, because you just then move your mouse to here. But keyboard only, you have to tab all the way through to get back to where you were. If you're using a screen reader, you would have to listen to all of that again, every time. So what we have is, quite often we have something called skip to content. So it's not something you normally see, but if you're on your web page, if your cursor's in the address bar and you hit tab, it'll take you to the first tab stop on the page, which is quite often a very nice button saying skip to main content, which is an anchor link to whatever it is on that page. So Washington Post, that's quite good, that has one. BBC also quite good, that has one. And then I just checked before, Le Soir, Belgium, does not. There is nothing. So I'd have to every single time either go past all of that content again. Again, not a problem when you're using a mouse and can see, but it's a bit of a pain if you can't. So I actually, for very different reasons, don't use a mouse 90% of the time. I'm just using a keyboard. So I'm never going to visit this website again. Well, it's in French. But again, Joomla's helping you do the right thing, because we have put a plugin it's part of core, and it's called Skip To. By default, it's only enabled in the admin. But you can easily, in the plugin settings, set it to be just the site, just the admin, or both. And what it does is that. So again, if I hit the tab bar, you can try this, it's live on the website. If you hit the tab bar, it automatically displays this. And then I can navigate through that list to the specific parts. And obviously but I don't want to have to make this. Yeah, it does it automatically. So if you remember back to that article where I had the two next to each other, yeah, so the article that only had a heading will just appear there once. But the article on the right that had the full heading structure will have the full heading structure in that link. It does it automatically. It scans your pages and shows it to you when it's needed. So we can skip to any part. We've also got skipping to the landmark areas of your screen, in this case, main, footer, and header. Again, you're now offering more for keyboard navigation than the BBC is offering, Washington Post is offering, Le Soir is offering. You're already doing this, so this is built into Joomla. Again, nothing else does this. The code originally for this, by the way, was written by PayPal. It was kind of abandoned, just left on their public GitHub account. And a guy from an American university and myself have both taken it over. And it's now available like this. So it's really nice and simple. You can also hit Alt F9, I think, and it will come up as well. So it's good. It works on the front end, works on the back end. It's dynamic. You make a quick change, that thing will update. Perfect. And then the final bit, the accessibility checker, which is what I've been showing you all the way through. It does lots of different things. Let me just show you now in Joomla 4.1 onwards. When you have a saved article, at the top in your toolbar there was a preview button was visible, and there's now another one called accessibility check. And when you press that, it opens up that article in the front end. This is the little tool running, and there it is displaying all the issues. I can navigate through. This isn't live, I was deliberately making these mistakes to show it. And you can then close that, go back to the article and make the changes. And if you want to, you can turn it on for the entire site. So not just when you press that button. Why would you do that? You would do that if Yannick's website's been around for a long, long time. He wants to use this tool now to check all the pages. It's a lot easier for him to enable that and go navigate the website and note the changes than any other way. So you would do that and then you would disable. You would never leave it running. it really will make a massive difference. As one of the main people in the accessibility world who's on the W3C accessibility, Leonie, who's blind, says, I just want you to say to me, my website is better than it was yesterday. You know, and then tomorrow you can say it was better than it was the day before. It's a continual process. No website is ever going 100% accessible according to the rules. It's part of what you're aiming to do, but you will never reach that final bit, and that's good. You're always checking, you're always looking at it. Oh yeah, so there it is, running when it's on the whole page. One other thing, by default, on this page, it is only going to check the article. It ignores everything else. So they may be full of accessibility bugs in here. It's ignoring those. Why? Because this is an accessibility checker for content creators. And most content creators cannot change the templates. Either they don't have the skills or they don't have the access. Yeah? So we don't want to bother them by telling them on every single page that you have this issue that they can't do anything about. You only want them to look at stuff that they can fix and then show them how to do it. So I am finishing now, but 2 exercises that you can take home with you to do. One, and this applies to whichever country you're in, go to Domino's and try and order a pizza with only using your keyboard. And I've tried it now.
You're not eating them, right?
Sorry?
You're not eating them.
No, it's not possible.
Right.
Right? So on the French one, which is the one I checked again this morning, when you click on the options for your pizza, you know, what size do you want, which cheese do you want, etc., a pop-up comes up with a form that you navigate. But where's the keyboard? The keyboard's still underneath that pop-up, and you tab along and you try to use your keyboard to get there, and it's not doing anything because it's tabbing through the other pizzas underneath. That wasn't as bad as the American version, which does some really strange stuff, and the British one's great because it has lots of pop-ups all the time. Or, do you want to buy this? Do you want to upgrade to this? Are you sure you don't want this special offer? And not only do they take my attention away, because I'll hear them if I have a screen reader on, I can't close them. Because the keyboard close command, the escape, will only work if you have focus on the pop-up. And the pop-up never gets focus. So I'll end up with about 10 pop-ups on my screen, and I know that somewhere underneath I am navigating through and ordering my pizza. So that's why. And to point out, they were taken to court in America about the lack of accessibility, and they lost. And yet they still have not fixed it. The other one is this website. So this is just my own short URL. It's complicated. It's a hard one to describe the actual URL. But go there, and it is designed to show you what the experience is like of just signing up to a website where they're using different ways different to standard ways of navigating. So it's supposed to be just about user interface issues, but it really is the best example I've ever seen for accessibility. If you try it, just be aware, it's not a trick, you can genuinely get to the end. If you do it correctly, it will take you about 5 minutes. The average, because I use this a lot when I'm teaching, the average is about 10 to 15 minutes. I have seen somebody who, after an hour, I did say you can stop, and they were just determined to keep going. I did leave. I don't know if he might still be sat there trying to do it. But it's a good one, and it will make you aware of the issues or the barriers that we put up in front of people. So definitely go and check that. And going to finish with this quote. Just to repeat again, disability is the only minority group that anyone can join at any time. You might not want to join it, but anyone can join it. It's not limited. It changes over time. You might be born blind, or you may become blind, or you may have a temporary vision issue. I'm using an old prescription glasses because I broke them. So I have right now I have a visual disability. And with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. I can either do questions now, or I am here over the 2 days, so you can ask me questions at any time. If you'd rather do it less of an audience. But other than that, thank you very much for listening to me speak in English. I hope it wasn't too painful for you. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Yannick?
Well, something you mentioned is details. When you have multiple times the same link on the same page, and I was not aware that there was a function where you could have all the links listed or something like that. And that's the reason you want to say, because I'm not sure how to do that. I have
okay.
In my case, my question is actually, I tend to prefer keeping 2 or 3 links, 2 or 3 times the same links when they are like pagination. When you have pagination on the top, pagination on the bottom, because otherwise you have to tab much longer to reach pagination. So where do you draw the line?
Okay, it is difficult. I mean, so how do I get to see the list? If I'm using a screen reader, then there are keyboard hotkeys. It's not just using the tab. So I can press on mine. It's caps lock L, and it will show me, and it will announce the list of links. Different different readers do different things. It will also, there are some browser plugins that you can get that will do it for you. So that creates a hotkey for you to visually see the list of links. And regarding the specific, if you're putting them in landmark regions of either nav and pagination, then that will address the issue about them being there twice.
Well, nav is something else. Nav is like the menu, but I'm talking about like a blog, for instance.
Yeah.
You've got, and that's one landmark.
Yes.
The main content. Then if you have only the icons,
yeah.
and pagination, you reach page 2. Okay, maybe they read the link, and I want to go to page 3 because page 2 I don't get.
Yeah.
So now I have to tap all this, right? No.
No, because you could just. So yes and no. It's going to depend on the user as well.
I switched between 2. I
yeah.
The first one, then I feel, oh, it's painful to have to go through that, so I
yeah.
put it back.
So I mean, so one of the first rules of ARIA controls is don't use it. That's their own rule. Is that you really should never need to. The reality is we do, which is why they exist, but you should always be looking at ways to avoid it. And the other thing is, which is incredibly important, when it comes to assistive technology, so that's screen readers or whatever, I switch a screen, correct way to say this. So I put a screen reader on occasionally. Somebody else who is blind has it on permanently. They will typically control the speed and have it reading at 2, 3, 4, even 5 times the speed that I have. They're all customized with hotkeys and stuff, all the different readers. People use different ones all the time. Yeah? And because we're not using that full time, we can't really know. So we just have to follow the best practice guidelines. I'm going to finish and I'll have a look at, in more depth, a better answer for you on that specific. Oh, go on.
Yeah, just with more experience, we work with disability people, and we have a real experience about a person who use the mouse, the screen, and use 20 zoom system, and his head is on the screen. She can see something, and for example, remote, they really prefer to have the really title Aria Label. Isn't good because she see the screen, and they prefer remove the link title on the image and read the entire title.
Which is why, you know, when you're, just because this one is the default, doesn't mean that you can't have it to set to visually display read more title and still have that. Yeah, so it's different for different people. It's just,
Yes,
you know,
it's very impressive to see.
So if you're doing, sometimes you just try to use the magnifying glass that's in your operating system. Set it on maximum, and then try to move around, you know, and read anything. It's incredibly difficult for us. But if someone's doing that all the time, and that's the only thing they know how to do it, or the only option, then we have to make sure that we enable that. So the zoom, being able to zoom your screen, works unless somebody has put in code to prevent you from zooming your screen. And people do that, because I want my designer wants it to look exactly like that.
Like in Photoshop.
Yeah, no, but they do. They want it to be a pixel match of Photoshop. What happens? So you can do it, but people aren't going to like you because you can't, unless you're on exactly the same computer as them. It's a bad experience. So there's lots of different ways. So I'm going to end with this one thing. Where do you put on your website the search button or the search box? Just shout it out. Do you always put it in the same place, or is it a menu, top link, top right?
Top right.
Anybody else?
Sidebar.
Okay, sidebar. So you will see, now that I'm making you aware of this, you will notice that the majority of websites have it top right. There's no real reason behind that. It's just that we've all become used to it being in the top right. So when we build our own websites, we put it in the same place. So WebAIM, which was mentioned in the previous talk, which is the American Association for Accessibility, they do, for web accessibility, they do a survey every year of people who use screen readers. And a few years ago, one of the questions was, how do you get to the search? And it was multiple choice. There was, I just use basically the equivalent of Control F and type in search to see what it's going to take me to. The second one was, I use this to take me to the search, which is part of my screen reader. I can't remember what the third one was, but there was an other. Oh, yeah, the third one will have been I navigate through the site until I get to the search. And there was a fourth one, which just said other. These people who write questionnaires always put those things on just so nobody complains that their option wasn't there. And that option was the most popular. And not only was it the most popular for that question, with the same suggestion, which was, I just start typing at the first input box and hit enter and see what happens. So it's like none of us would think that's what's, how someone's going to use a search box. You can think of all sorts of different ways to navigate to it, but people come up with their own ways. And sometimes their own ways are complete surprises to everybody. And that's the most common thing. So we should never be doing accessibility testing ourselves, with ourselves. If we want to test, so your person that is looking at the screen like that, I can't build a website and test it for that, because that's not me. I can try, but it's not the same. So you have to, if you're really serious about it, yes, you can use these tools that will set you up with the basics. Further, then you need to do real in-world testing with real people. Thank you very much. Is it?